Hello,
Hey.
everybody. Welcome, welcome. Good to see some familiar faces already. I'll just start admitting people. There'll be more people coming, no doubt, as we start the conversation. Thank you so much for joining today's webinar, AI for Now, How to Start Today and Reimagine Tomorrow. So as people are still joining, maybe you could let us know in the chat that you can see and hear us clearly, that you can see the slides. Just give us a quick thumbs up or a yes in the chat. That would be wonderful. And as you know, we love to run our webinars and our virtual training events as if we're in the room together. So we really encourage you to interact in the chat. And also, if you can have your cameras on and join us in the room, that would be wonderful. Felicity, love those thumbs up. That's fantastic. So would love to know also in the chat, just as we're waiting for everybody to jump in, would love to hear which organization you're representing today, who you're or where you're joining us from. That would be fantastic. Just as we wait a couple of minutes as people join. We're all good, fantastic. Phil's from Melbourne. I'm up here in beautiful Heathcote. We've got Lauren in Cronulla, wonderful. Greg's in the Sunshine Coast. Oh, we're all over. Western Australia, Townsville, St. George, bright, amazing. Sunny Brizzy, very good. Fantastic. So, as we like to begin our sessions, we'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we're all learning today, and I'd like to pay my respect to elders past and present, and also extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. So as I mentioned, thank you all so much for being with us here today. We all know that in today's rapidly evolving business landscape, that AI or artificial intelligence isn't just a competitive advantage, it's actually becoming a core leadership capability. And so over the next hour, we're going to be exploring the essential strategies and mindsets and also some really practical tools that will help you and your organization to not just adopt AI, but really lead with it. So we've structured this session into three really high impact segments. So as you can see here, the critical role of internal AI champions. So it's really about sparking that cultural adoption through to sustaining that transformation. We're also going to be jumping into ChatGPT excellence for executives. So we're really going to be covering why every senior executive team should master ChatGPT now. So very excited for that one personally. And then finally, we've got our live Q&A with our wonderful guest today, Dawid Naude. I'm going to introduce Dawid in a moment. But I think, it's wonderful to have such a really highly respected expert in our midst today that we can learn from. So make sure you have your questions ready, and we'll look forward to that segment as well. And so just to give you a really brief overview of the agenda, you'll see here there's this visual roadmap of our session today. So by the end of the webinar, you'll walk away with some really clear understandings of the leadership actions, skills, and cultural shifts that are needed to make AI a sustainable driver of performance in your organization. So I'm going to hand it over to two wonderful experts today. We have Phillip Ralph, founder and CEO of the Leadership Sphere, and Dawid Naude, founder and CEO of Pathfindr. Take it away, Phil.
Thanks, Kelly. Hi, everyone. It's great to see so many familiar faces here again. But for those people who don't know us, and by the way, I'm not one of the experts on AI, just I want to clarify that when you say two experts, I might be expert in leadership and culture, but definitely not AI. So I'm here to learn as much as everyone else. So for those who don't know us, we are a leadership development firm. We've been around for 18 plus years now. And our vision is really to be the partner of choice in human-centered leadership that really drives transformation. And we're really passionate about what we do. And we're really excited to present thought leaders in different areas, whether that be leadership, culture, AI, and how we adopt AI into, the modern organization today. Again, for those who don't know us, we really work in three streams: the individual, team, and organizational excellence levels. And those streams really drive what we do. And you can see some of the things we do, from executive coaching right through to a high performance team program, and then more system wide change, which is about organizational excellence and really rewiring and changing the narrative around, outdated management and leadership modes, which we've been thinking about for 200 years now. It's time we kind of moved on. So that's our passion and our purpose. I just wanted to set up today, just thinking about the macro. And for those who have joined us for previous webinars, you may have seen some of these slides, but I just wanted to spend just a couple of moments really thinking about, or what's the view, from a very high macro perspective, first of all, and how does AI fit into that? And then I'm going to invite David to speak to AI and really help us understand a little more and what it means for us. So that top line, really, what are the future trends? And I think I was just reading another paper yesterday about this and reading a research report around several hundred leaders who very seasoned executives, and they're saying these times are unprecedented. And I know that's a phrase we use a lot, but they're saying, no, this really is unprecedented. The changes that we're seeing and how to navigate that requires a whole another way of viewing the world and a whole another way of being resilient. So what's really important here is those global trends, and you can see up the top there, technological acceleration and how AI fits into that, which obviously is the focus of today's conversation. Top five on the radar of HR, and I've tested these with many HR practitioners, and they say, yeah, they're pretty much spot on. They haven't really changed too much for a little while now. And then what are employees looking for? And I think the key one here is really that first one. Meaningful work and purpose is becoming a stronger and stronger driver. But of course, why we're here today is AI, and it feels like we're talking about AI every day. I don't know about you, but I get an article or I hear something about AI, and of course, everyone's got an opinion on AI, which I find fascinating. Everyone's kind of AI experts all of a sudden. But I'm going to hand it over to an AI expert, and that is David. So, David and the Leadership Sphere have been in partnership for couple of years now, and really, really working together to support organizations to understand the new reality. So, David, I'll hand over to you.
Okay, awesome. Thanks a lot, Phil. It's great to see you all. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to apologize in advance if today seems like a whirlwind and I go really fast, because I could talk about this all week. But what's really important to me is that I I don't spend so long on the big picture, and why I think the next 2 years are going to be either the most money that's ever been spent without any outcome, or the most rapid advancement of innovation we've ever seen in history. And by the end of the session, you'll see why I say that. There's a very specific reason for that. Now, if today resonates with you at all, well, firstly, just please connect with me on LinkedIn. I've just dropped my link in there. It's actually really timely because I published a very honest deep dive view into GPT-5 that I published last night, and we're going to be covering a bit of that today. But if you really want to know what's going on in AI, please just follow me on LinkedIn. That's the easiest way. And the second thing is, if today resonates with you at all, and you want your team to kind of feel a bit of what you're feeling today and inspired, and how to get started, or even go a bit deeper in the practical side of things, we host monthly practical sessions, more for kind of team members, not for leaders. But it's just at startlearning.ai. So if you want all the practical tips, we'd love to see your whole team. We've got 2 coming up very shortly. So please connect with us there. Just a bit about me. So Dawid Naude. I'm very fortunate to have this wonderful team that's now about twice as big as this. And what we do is we work with companies to implement, adopt, and embrace AI. And it's all we do. We're all in on AI. And we're also fortunate, all very deliberately independent. So whilst we've got great partnerships with all the OpenAIs, Amazons, and Google and Microsoft, we're completely independent. So I have very honest views about these things all the time. Okay, I am gonna go through this quite quickly, but I hope that that you pick up most of the theme along the way, because I tried. I promise I tried, Phil. I tried to cut stuff out, but I just couldn't. Okay, this some of you would have seen this before, and I think it's quite. I love this picture, because this is Easter morning in 1900 on Fifth Avenue in New York, and What you can see happening here is there's actually only one car, the rest is horse and cart. And then 13 years later, there's one horse and cart and the rest is vehicles. Now imagine how primitive manufacturing was in the 1900s, let alone just the infrastructure required to make a change like that happen. Whilst there is a significant infrastructure component to AI, most of it is just about adoption and using what's already there. And what I'm going to be going through now is everything we've learned about AI in the past 18 months. I always feel like picking up a chair and throwing it at somebody if they claim that they're an AI expert, because I do this all day, every day. I'm absolutely obsessed, and I am so humble to know that there's so much to learn. We don't even know how AI works. Like that's how impossible it is to be an expert in the space. We don't even know how it works, and which is one of the reasons why it's such a radically different technology. But first, I want to cover GPT-5. Now, this is incredibly timely because it was released Friday, and any of you who are part of a ChatGPT Enterprise license, you got it this morning. And if those of you have paid personal editions, you got it on Friday as well. And if you just want to put in the chat if you are using GPT-5, any early thoughts or anything like that, or just give me a thumbs up or something, just a bit of a vibe. It'd be great to find out. Okay, great. So yes, no, I saw it this morning. Fantastic. Okay, now GPT-5. If you just follow all the noise, and that is why it's noise, and there's a deliberate reason why it's called Pathfindr, our company, is because we're really trying to sift through that noise and make sense of it. There was actually quite a lot of noise that it was an underwhelming release, and that's because people were expecting more features, more flashiness. OpenAI did a bit of this to themselves. I mean, they hyped it up like absolutely crazy, and then what they released was it does what it already did, but way better. And that's actually what we need. We don't need new features. Like right now, we need a reliable model that uses trust. They don't worry about hallucination and inaccuracy and all of that. But I'm going to show you something that will kind of shock you with GPT-5. Okay, so this is don't worry about interpreting this. I'm going to walk you through it. Now, this is a fascinating, one of my favorite benchmarks of AI. It's called the Meta Time Horizon. What it is 170 different software engineering tasks, and how long it takes each one of these tasks. They've benchmarked how long it takes an expert level software engineer human to complete it. Okay, so 170 tasks. Each task has a time assigned to it, how long it takes an expert to complete a human. GPT-2 arrives. It could only complete the task that would take a person a second or two to complete. So really basic things, probably just reading and saying what's there. Then GPT-3 saw a massive uplift from like 1.5 seconds to about 9 seconds. And that's a factor of 10. Like that's actually very significant. And then GPT 3.5, which is when this came with ChatGPT, was this here. We had a tool that allowed you to do things that a software engineer would typically take just under a minute to do. I mean, that's absolutely remarkable. Like that was a fascinating accomplishment at the time, and it all captured all of our imagination. Then we had GPT-4o, which was about 1.5 years ago. And we've been waiting so long for GPT-5. And all of a sudden, we went to 9 minutes. And that was a huge leap up. Like we've gone from AI being able to do tasks that would take a human 1 minute to 9 minutes. That's a huge leap up. Now, most people, at best, they're using AI like to maybe minimal GPT-4o uses, but I'd say 95% of the way people use AI, in my experience, is they're actually using it for things that GPT 3.5 was good at. Like, and so they haven't made use of any of this advancement. Now we had GPT-5 released, and this has taken it to 2 hours and 17 minutes. Just think of that level of advancement. We went from 3.5 being able to do tasks that would take a human under a minute, so very simple tasks, to 9 minutes. And this is how astronomical this jump is. We've gone from 9 minutes to 2.5 hours for an expert engineer. But yet people still use AI to summarize meetings that didn't need to happen in the first place. Like that's where we're still at. Using it to summarize emails and all of that. And a big theme of today is going to be around really rethinking the relationship you have with this tool and this technology as an intelligence tool, not a productivity tool. I don't think your customers want you to be faster. I think that's not the number one thing they want from you. And they don't want you to be cheaper. That's not the number one thing they want from you. They actually want you to show up in completely different ways. But let's first address some common misconceptions and elephants in the room, particularly around privacy and security. Now, the number one question that gets asked is, what does the data does my use train the model? Who can see it? How secure is it? And people are concerned that if I put my tax return in and it's tax time now, and some like Phil could ask ChatGPT, what does Dawid earn, and it'll give him an answer. Now that's not at all how it works, but there is a crazy fraction, minuscule risk that your data may be considered for training use if you're using a free or personal edition of these tools. Now, when this is not new news, you all use Meta or Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all that. You're not paying with it out of your wallet, but you are paying for it with your data. You're trading data for convenience in a product. And AI is no different, except they don't, like with Meta and Insta and all of that, it's you're trading your data so that you can be advertised to. And so if you put up a post saying, does anybody have any gluten-free cookbook recommendations? I'm considering going gluten-free. You're going to get ads for gluten-free cooking, cookbooks, etc., for weeks everywhere, not just on that platform. That cookie's going to follow you all over the place. And but AI, there isn't actually an advertising model yet. Thankfully, it's kind of one of the first techs where we haven't had that, like a free tier that's supported by ads. We haven't had that before. And so you're trading your information to be considered to improve the model for those that are paying for it. And just like at work, you don't give Gmail, you don't give your employee, you don't tell your employees to use their Hotmail or Gmail accounts for business email. You give them an Outlook or a Google Workplace account. It's a business tool. It's the same thing with AI. And so if you're on the free or consumer editions, it may be considered, sure. But as soon as you're on the enterprise or commercial editions of these, it's not. And so we're very adamant. In fact, I've told my team that if somebody asks you, like on a call with a client, if they're saying, what does the free one include versus the paid ones, the answer should be, I don't know, because we implement. You've got to pay for this license. You can't expect staff to use their personal license and say you're taking AI seriously. Now, so with these commercial editions, they don't train the model. They have all of those enterprise certifications that you expect: GDPR, SOC 2 Type 2, ISO 27001, tons of encryption. You are carrying 1,000 times more risk than any risk that AI will introduce to your organization. Like, you're already carrying so much risk in so many other places. But the free or consumer editions, then your data may be considered. Now, it does get scrubbed, all of that. They're not stealing your IP. They're trying to improve the models to see how many follow-up questions do you ask before you get an answer. They're trying to see, are our answers accurate? Are our answers being answered? Like, what style do people prefer? Like that type of thing. That's what they're using. I promise you, OpenAI really doesn't care how much you earn, and your business secrets are not as valuable as they think they are. So they really it's not what they're concerned about. There is one big difference between Copilot and ChatGPT. So they're both highly secure as long as you're using the commercial editions. But Copilot is preferred by companies as a starting point. It's very important to label it as a starting point, because it's an app, it's not the whole technology. Because Copilot lives where your data already lives. And so it makes your board, your cybersecurity, it makes everybody very happy that you're not introducing any more risk than you're already carrying with SharePoint and Teams and Outlook and OneDrive and all of that. And it also does have the advantage of it has access to all of that information to consider as context, which I'm going to be teaching you about. And it's also local. For those that have requirements for data centers to be in Australia, it's great. It's here. Whereas OpenAI is still in Europe or the US. But it is a better tool, which I'll dive into in a bit. Now, So I hope that puts people at ease, take a big sigh of relief. When we get into demo mode, even on your personal editions, I'm going to show you how you can opt out of training the model. So, you can remove that. It takes 10 seconds, very easy to do. But one of the things that, particularly because this is a leadership session, is understanding a bit of the bigger picture instead of just diving into practical training. I'm just going to talk through how I see AI, and this evolves all the time. If you see me present in 3 months or something, this is going to be different. It evolves all the time. But the first thing I really want to touch on is that please be very skeptical of people who say, well, AI is just a tool. It's how you use it. You need to first find the uses and then figure it out. It's not at all accurate or true. If you think of a handsaw and a chainsaw, they're both tools, but one is dramatically more powerful than the other. With a chainsaw, you can do in like an hour. It's probably going to take you months to do with a handsaw. But it doesn't matter how much you innovate that chainsaw. You can do all sorts of blade reinvention, material innovation, handle design. It's going to be even more useless than the handsaw if it didn't have electricity or some kind of energy powering it. And that's what we see AI much closer as. It's an energy or an electricity that powers everything that you already do today. Now, many of us would have experienced 2008, like the smartphone, the iPhone arriving. At the beginning, it was doing what you already do, but kind of in a new interface. So it was great. We can do email on it. We can also listen to our iPod on it. It's great. It's got a web browser, but why would I need a web browser on my phone? So niche, back then that's what we thought. But then slowly, that technology, it's not a tool. The iPhone was not a tool. It completely changed everything. And all of a sudden, we stopped going to the bank. We started doing it, internet banking. We had a whole new world of apps, mobile app development arrive. You think of social media, that's when, Facebook was already around, but it really took off at that point. And then it became, it's fundamental. Like you can't even, now we even it's replaced credit cards, and even we use it to get into the office and all of that. So it's definitely not a tool. It's much bigger than that. And it certainly doesn't just make what you already do faster. It's transformative in so many other ways. But one of the big things that is dramatically different to any other technology we've ever seen, it's powerful without any IT involvement. Like we've never had any tool that does this. So we've never had any technology like this. You think of even the most basic CRM configuration of Salesforce, even though they promise at Dreamforce that it's going to do these bazillion things out of the box, it doesn't. You have to put an astronomical amount of work in to get any value out of it. Think of AI, a ChatGPT license. I can ask it for leadership advice. I can ask it to write a poem. I can ask it to analyze Coles versus Woolworths. I can ask it to do so many different things with it just by asking it. And we've never had that powerful technology before. But the final one that I think today is really all about is it's deceiving. It looks simple, but it really isn't. Most people still using it basically. These things are terribly designed. It's one of the worst user experiences I've ever seen, expecting users to decide. It's changed a bit with GPT-5, but in the past it was like, use the 4.0 model for this, use the 4.1 model for that, use the O3 model for this, use O3 mini for that, use O3 mini high if it's more difficult, but you still want a reasoning model. It's ridiculous. So it's been very difficult to get adoption. But the number one thing we've learned is that AI is actually, it's going to start making sense to you when you start thinking about it like a person instead of a technology. And if it's a person, it lives as close to the chief people officer as it does to the CIO. And I think the CIOs have had a really raw deal handed to them by expecting to carry the entire company with this technology. And I don't think that's accurate. I don't think that's why we've seen such slow adoption. It's much more than a technology. They play a role, but then they make it secure, scalable, and compliant. But this needs to be on everybody's agenda, particularly your chief people officer, learning and development, all of that, because it's the future of work. It's change. This is the largest change management exercise we've ever had. Entire role descriptions will be changed through this process, and it's constantly evolving. It's a really big piece, and essentially what we've learned is that AI needs to be adopted, like not implemented. Like that's as a starting point. Further on, yes, you do customization, integration, all that, but at the beginning, It's actually an adoption issue that you have, not an implementation issue. Now, I'm going to whip through this quite quickly, but I'm just going to teach you how AI works as if it were a person. And I'm going to use the technical language, but with relatable examples along the way. Now, let's say you're onboarding a new hire. The first thing is modalities. Now, these are technical terms. This is when you see an AI release, they'll talk about modalities. The first is, it's like senses, reading and writing, speaking and hearing, seeing and drawing. And that's how we all started with AI, with ChatGPT, reading and writing. Now, if you read every single book in the world, every blog post, every scrap of text on the internet, you're going to be able to write some things about it. And the same as if you were to watch every YouTube video, you're going to be able, and I gave you access to a tool that allows you to take pixels from each little video that you've watched and recreate new things. You'd be able to do it. Same with seeing and hearing and drawing and all of that. So the first thing is, what can this person do? What are their senses? The second thing is kind of how smart are they? And this is where you have, sorry, I need to update this. I updated the previous slide. It's more now 5 and 5 thinking. But anyways, because of the model change, I haven't updated all the slides. But the next one is how smart is this person? If I've read every book in the world, all of that, but how good am I at interpreting that information? And at the beginning, we had GPT-4o is much more like a grad. Now, if you've been using Copilot, that uses the 4o model. The default model is in ChatGPT has always been 4o. And Sam Altman came out and said only 7% of users had ever used a reasoning model. And our team wanted to actually create shirts that said, yes, but have you tried it on O3? Because it's the O3 model, a simple drop down, activates the reasoning model. This is the thinking model. And this is much more like a PhD that thinks they're slower, they're longer. And even if you could afford it for your company, you wouldn't staff every role as a highly experienced MBA, PhD level, because there's some things that they're just not as good at. They're slower, they're more thorough. There's a lot of it depends, all of that. Sometimes you just want to get the job done. That's where you need your fast model. GPT-5 decides how to switch the models for you automatically. And you can go and change it yourself if you want. Okay, so I've read everything, got a certain level of intelligence. Now the next bit is kind of your guardrails. Now, if this were a person, this is your ethics. And this is part religious, part societal, part familial. And it's, in the case of AI, it's like, don't create bioweapons. If I ask ChatGPT to create a nuclear bomb, it's not gonna let me do that. GPT-5 makes it helpful in it'll assume that you're looking at it from academic reasons, but it's not going to go into the detail that you need to actually be helpful. Now, up to this point, up to guardrails, is really out of your control. This is how you buy the model. I can't change this. I really can't. And when people talk about bias and all of that in AI and they're committed to responsible AI, it's like unless you're working at OpenAI, it's not in your control. Like this is all how the models are trained. And like you can't control somebody's ethics when you hire them. It's just so built into them. Now you can monitor how they're applying it, and you can foster that type of you can foster how you check for it and all of that. But it's really kind of built in, and that's exactly how these models are the same. But from this level up, this is where you can play a significant role. And the first is context. It's probably the most important term in AI. It's a very technical term. AI is only as good as the context as you give it, and something like Copilot has the context of all of your emails, folders, documents, calendar, everything like that, which is very powerful context. If you think of, if I asked ChatGPT, help me prepare for the webinar today, like there's such little context there. It's gonna give me high level generic advice. Make sure that you're prepared, all that. But if I actually said it's for TLS, it's this type of audience, even here's what the invitation looks like, it's going to be far more accurate. Or far more helpful. And so context is really important. And there's ways to make context a lot easier to get into these tools. But what is context if all you did was, okay, so the next layer up, you've got context and this person has read all these books and they can access different systems. But the next thing is the tools. Now, this is, again, a technical term. These models have tools. And the first tool was web search. And initially when ChatGPT 3.5 came out, one of the biggest criticisms was how how old the data was in there. So if you said, hey, what was the result of the last Wallabies match, it would cite something from 9 months ago. And so the first tool that was added was web search. And so it would pick up, if you're looking for best practice advice, it doesn't need to do a web search. That's in the training model, but it'll pick up that this is something where time is actually really important, and then it'll trigger a web search. But we've advanced way more beyond that in terms of capability, not in terms of adoption. But like my ChatGPT is connected to everything. I have it connected to my Outlook. I have it connected to my Canva, to my Notion, my Teams, absolutely everything. And so it already has all of that context if I ask it questions. But that's reading. But the other thing is, can it write to those systems as well? Can it? Yes, it might be able to help me see what meetings I have this week, but can it book one for me? That type of thing. And that's where you start extending this. This has exploded in the last 2 months because of a thing called MCP, stands for Model Context Protocol. MCP, AI is a very immature field. People say AI has been around forever. Well, no, yes, I understand what you're saying, but large language models haven't. The paper was only developed in 2016, 2017. It was a concept. It was a concept 7 years ago. Like, that's how new it is. And because of that, we haven't had any interchangeable standards. And so what MCP is, it's the USB-C port of AI. And so now you can connect these systems into different AI tools very easily. You don't need to know anything about that, other than that's the reason why you're going to see all these connectors so quickly appearing everywhere, is because we have the first standard. And the final one is learning. Now, this is where AI is really good up until this point. AI is terrible at learning on the job. Absolutely terrible. Now, people think these tools are self-learning. That, like, if you figure out how to create a self-learning AI, you're going to be you're going to be on an island somewhere, like, because you're going to be a trillionaire. Like, these things are terrible at self-learning. Imagine if this is kind of like an AI system that, if it were a person, you have to kind of keep telling them, if they do the same thing over and over, you're going to have to kind of go retrain them at some point to not do that thing in the future. We're trying, like the model providers are trying with thumbs up, thumbs down things, that type of thing. But even that, it's not automatic. It's reviewed and all of that. And there was an absolute disaster in April from ChatGPT where they, for 24 hours, said, hey, you should find ChatGPT way more useful and friendly now. And they had to roll it back 24 hours later because they used the thumbs up information as a learning mechanism. And what happened was it became a massive sycophant. It would only give you the answers that you wanted, not the answers that you needed, because people tend to like messages that they want to hear. And people say, oh, I like to be challenged. Well, you kind of don't. Like, if you went to dinner with a friend and after every question they'd go, are you sure about that? Are you sure about that? Have you thought about it this way? You're not making it to dessert, let alone a second like dinner. and you could ask it questions like, hey, I'm a very successful like tech CEO, whatever. I'm thinking of giving up everything, putting it all on black. Now, it's not as dramatic as this, but I'll just use it for illustration. Putting it all on black at the casino. What do you think? And it's going to go like, yeah, I think it's a great idea. Like, and it's going to back you, right? It's giving you the answer you wanted. And so this is a very challenging area of how to use this data set. It's just not used at the moment, which is interesting. Now I'm going to flick through. So I hope that helped a little bit with understanding these things. The next one is, like, what's the role of AI within your company? And it largely goes into 3 buckets. Now, the first one is where you're making every employee more productive. Now, this is the world of Copilot, ChatGPT, Claude. It's giving you all assistance. But like, you still have to instruct it. You're still having to hand off work. It's like a purely reactive staff member that's very helpful. They're very capable, but you just kind of constantly instruct them. Copy, paste, drag, drop, all of that. At some point you go, actually, AI is working really well. I think I can string it together as a workflow and kind of integrate it. And it might be as simple as when maybe customers are contacting you on like an info at email address, and you've developed this great thing on Copilot or ChatGPT to copy paste that to answer these very basic questions that you often could just be answered from the website, but they contact you anyways. At some point you go, wouldn't it be easier if we just had an immediate auto response that answers these things easily on the email inbox? And now you can go take that and integrate it and make it invisible. There's so many opportunities in that. And then the final one is where you're using AI to create entirely new products and services, really reimagining what's possible. And this is the one that all of you as leaders should start thinking about. And nobody has the answers for you because we don't know what the new world looks like. Like nobody could have guessed how dramatic AI, how the smartphone would have been, or the internet, or any of these things. But let's give you an example of each of them. So this is one I used. I recently did 2 weeks of training of we did over 1,000 people in 4 cities in South Africa the last 2 weeks. At one of the hotels, I didn't get an invoice when I left for my expense claim. And so I used the new agent feature of ChatGPT to say, I stayed at the City Lodge at the waterfront in Cape Town. This is my room number. Here's my credit card number. Can you go, can you get the invoice for me? And ChatGPT went end to end, found the website, asked me to log into Outlook, which I did, and then it wrote the whole email for me and then sent it. It took about 7-8 minutes. It messaged me when it wanted me to come back, and then 5 minutes later, I got a copy of the invoice. It's great, right? I loved it. I don't have to do any of that, and it did the whole thing end to end. So many great examples like that. Let's give a core operations faster and smarter example. This one is just call centers are often a great place with this, but something like as the customer is speaking, because AI is great at translating voice to text, and AI is great at text as well. So it can start picking up what a customer is asking for on the phone and automatically populating the record in the call center, bringing up the correct article, helping solve it. We did this for a great customer called Honey Insurance, one of Australia's first voice agents. And yeah, makes the whole interaction so much easier. But the one that I get really excited about is this one of new products and services. And AI is going to be a channel. And if anybody has been monitoring, the traffic to your website of your company from ChatGPT, I'm not expecting people to have this offhand. It's just in case somebody does. I'd love to know in the chat how much you've seen it rise. Just sometimes there's 1 or 2 people who have, but some companies are starting to see up to 25% of their traffic is coming from ChatGPT sources. And at the moment, it's a search engine, but it's going to be a channel for transactions very, very soon. And here's an example of what this experience looks like. Now, this isn't available in Australia yet, but it's coming very soon. It's available in the US. I want some great Shiraz that's not too expensive and available for pickup near me. I found several available under $20. Now, it knows what expensive means to me because it has access to my history, it has memory, and a couple of other things. Comes up with these options. But the big difference is, well, first, it's kind of a great interface. It's got tiles you can flick, but it also gives recommendations of where to buy it and gets prices. And then you click on something like Pensilva Shiraz, it comes up with something like Liquorland where you can transact, and you're going to be able to push buy straight away from there. Little Apple Pay comes up, purchase and deliver. Imagine if it recommends 3 things, and it can be anything, just some call to action in there, but yours says visit website, and the other 2 is like book a call or request a sample or whatever it is, and yours is like visit website. So making it easy for AI to find your website and soon transact on it is really important. You just need to be aware of this field at the moment. It's called AEO, Answer Engine Optimization. We have search engine optimization in the past, so we have answer engine optimization. One thing that is just a gut feel I have is I don't think that your existing SEO partners are going to be the right places to look to for this advice because it's so new and emerging and specialized. So do some Googling or some ChatGPTing and try to see who those partners are that are really leading in the space. Once we get a handle on it, I'll be publishing stuff on that, but honestly, we just don't yet. Then, of course, you can create great images and publish all of these things incredibly easily. Now, I'll flick through this next bit pretty quickly. Out of all the companies we've worked with, we also found that there was, and this is why this meeting is so important, there's only one single factor that separates those that are getting success with AI versus those that aren't, is that their leadership team were using AI every day, but not only for productivity, but actually for intelligence. They're using it for higher order things: strategy, analysis, data analysis, putting in a board paper and saying, what are 15 difficult questions the board might ask me? Putting in a business case and saying, give me the 15 reasons why we should not proceed. Give me 15 better ways to use these funds. All of that. Like, it's actually challenge. It's not just summarizing meeting minutes, which people get so excited about, but don't use AI to summarize the meeting. Use AI to figure out how to not need the meeting in the first place. Like, this is not just a simple, because to be honest, it probably wasn't needed in the first place, but let's assume it was. Use AI how to figure out how to get all that time back. Now, once you have your leaders using this, the next group is you have to get, each leader can nominate like maybe 2 or 3 people, but you need a group of champions. Now, they pave the way. They find the use cases. They're encouraged. They play by special rules. They get training. And then they use their use and experience to make decisions, update policies, create change management material. And so instead of rolling it out to all of your, maybe your ops team or sales team, get 2 sales team members to be your champions. And they're encouraged to find the issues, to find the value and the problems. But they're going to find value, and then you're going to take that and turn it into fantastic training material. And instead of like an AI 101 or AI for Sales 101, it's going to be AI for Sales for Westpac, commercial banking, and you're going to have it's all going to be fantastically documented. So that's brilliant. Now, okay, I'm going to have to try really rush through this next bit because it is important. The big thing as well now to think about is this is a fantastic chart that just demonstrates how humans usually think about technology advancing versus how technology actually advances. Now, a lot of you are going to be disappointed with your use of AI, or already have today, or will be in the future. This is a guy called Roy Amaro looked at every tech trend in history, all the way back to the agricultural revolution, and found at the beginning there's a lot of skepticism, there's a lot of disappointment, because we expect it to be behaving like here, but actually it's behaving like this. And so there's this expectation gap that creates disappointment. But technology does not develop in a straight line. You have a massive amount of acceleration in a very compressed time frame. And think of the iPhone 2008 versus 2015. Like, it's a completely different universe. Think of all the way back to flight. Like, Wright brothers' first flight was like 1903 or 1904, and then we have air warfare in World War II, and then we have like Boeing Hull in 1950. And so over here you've got the Wright brothers' first flight, and then over here, like, we have Boeing, like 45 years later, and then kind of been the same since then. And so we still have a massive amount of this to go through. Now, the reason why the next 2 years are going to be particularly important is because of the fastest growing black market product in the world. Now, I usually get people to guess this and all of that, but I'm not going to be able to today. And it's the GPU. It's the graphic processing unit from, in this case, NVIDIA. That's the NVIDIA CEO there. That chip costs about about 100,000 Aussie, and consumes the same amount of electricity as like a 3 to 4 person house. Now, that's not just by itself, it's part of a bigger array and all of that. But the reason why it's the fastest growing black market product in the world is because it's illegal to export it from the US to China. If you think of it as not only a societal tool, the country that has the best AI is actually a huge advantage, but also even military. So if your AI is 10 times better than in other countries, that's a huge, huge advantage. But the reason why, and so there's been a lot of smuggling of these chips into China, because the investment hasn't, even though the economy is so much bigger there, in terms of people, the investment into AI has just not been the same. And so NVIDIA's chips are not allowed to be exported there. But the reason why the next 2 years are going to be massive is because all the AI that you're currently using has been trained on about 100,000 of these chips and the older generation at a Microsoft data center in Arizona. And Elon Musk has really accelerated everything by joining the party very late, but very aggressively. And in the same amount of time that it took Microsoft and OpenAI to get 100,000 chips up and running and trained, several years, it took Elon Musk about 191 days. And so he got his 100,000 chips up and running in Memphis. Couldn't build a data center in that time, so found an old Electrolux former manufacturing plant, gutted it, and started just shipping in tons of these chips. But then also he decided to get the next 130,000 chips in shortly after that. And at the moment, he has more than OpenAI, and that's what trained Grok. That's what trained Grok, particularly Grok 4, which up until GPT-5 was actually the leading model. But what's happened as well is he's started building Colossus 2. Now, if we think about it, we're using AI right now that's been trained on 100,000 of these chips. Musk already has 230,000, and now Colossus 2 wants to put in 500,000 chips there. And all of a sudden, we're up to a massive figure. But then you've got this, I don't know, I want to say weirdo, but he's a very strange person. Zuckerberg, like, can't be fired. That's the way the board's structured. He's got 3/4 of the world addicted to his technology, and he's strange. Like, it's kind of a really, really difficult mix. But he was like behind, and he's like, well, my data center is going to be bigger than your data center, and I'm going to build one that has like almost 1 million chips in it, and it's going to be as big as Manhattan, and I'm going to build 5 of them, and the first one's going to be ready by the end of next year. It's crazy. Like 800,000 chips or so are going to be in this data center. Like it's unreal. And then you've got Sam Altman, also strange. All these guys are strange. Comes out and says, well, my one's going to be way bigger than both of yours. And we're building one that's going to consume 4.5 gigawatts. And we'll have like 4 million chips. And we're going to build several of them in several countries so we can get the energy from all over the place. And if you think about what this means is like that data center there will have like 30 times as many chips as what the current data center has. Now, one of the things, what's happening with these chips, it's actually got nothing to do with you using AI. When you use AI, it doesn't hit these data centers. It's the training. These data centers are the universities of that person that you saw there. They train them. And so this is where you give a huge data set, you have it find the patterns, takes like 6 months, and then actually fails. Like, I mean, imagine doing something for 4 months and it fails and you got to start again. This is what happens. We've already graded text, but think of computer use, clicking the mouse, think of biology, think of all of those different things where they're going to be working through this. And unfortunately, yes, there is a climate impact, 100%, but unfortunately, something that people don't really understand is it's not actually in your control. Like, it's all at these centers that consume all the energy. There's more energy use in a kettle boil than like a week's worth of typical ChatGPT use. So, like, and by the way, you walked off to go get a cup of water or something, and then you had to come back 5 minutes later and boil the kettle again because you forgot to pour the cup of tea. And so there are a million ways to optimize on your climate change contribution that are going to have way more of an impact than using ChatGPT less. So unfortunately, it is the truth. But what blew me away is that they consider this the start of AI progress. Like for them, the race is only starting now. Like, and think of in a couple of years, if we have 100,000 chips that got us here, and effectively kind of a one-horse race. I mean, it has been mostly OpenAI, but now it's not. Now it's really aggressively multiple. Like in the next 2 years, we're going to have potentially 100, 200 times more chips. So imagine AI 200 times more powerful 2 years from now. So get excited about how terrible AI is today, because it's the worst AI you're ever going to use in your life. And it already is so remarkable. So let's dive into some practical things for the last couple of minutes. And if anybody wants to stay on after for some more Q&A, more than happy to. But I'll make sure you get a ton of value out of these last 10 minutes. Okay, so if AI was a person, what do they look like? What do they do? What are their skills? I want you to think of it as 3 people. You have an assistant, a thinker, and a creator. The assistant is your grad. Now, this is how you've all been using AI. Very few people are using it above this. It's to do things that are really low level, simple, quick, fast, things you could have done when you were a grad. And so you give it to AI. But it needs a lot of direction. I'm going to introduce you in a minute or two to the thinker. Now, this is something that is read every book in your field, fantastic at analysis, like just unreal. You need to start using the thinker to be a better leader, to make better decisions. There's no point in using AI to have optimizing a process that doesn't need to happen in the first place. And to get to that kind of structural thinking, you have to make better decisions from the top down. And the final one that's gone berserk recently because of Google's VO3 model is the creator. Text, audio, video, image, coding, things like that. Now, VO3 from Google has gone crazy because it's so powerful. You can generate videos of kind of anything. It's the best in market. You could probably guess why. Because Google owns YouTube. And imagine having all of YouTube as a training data set. If you watched every single YouTube video in history and you're able to create videos, you're going to be able to create a lot of videos about lots of different things. And to make the three of these come together in one very quick demo, I'm going to introduce you to this example here of as if it was Qantas, right? Now, Qantas is not a customer of ours. I'm just doing this for demo purposes. But let's say you're from Qantas and you're inspired today and you go, wait, I'm going to go use AI. I have how to figure out if we should create an AI travel app. I could go anywhere in the world and ask this app, what should I do today? And it's going to come up with an itinerary for me. The first thing I'm going to do is, should Qantas build an AI travel companion app? Now, this is the assistant at play here. You're all used to this very fast response. It impressed us 2 years ago, but there's no depth in it. I'm going to introduce you to the thinker. So this is a tool called Claude. Like ChatGPT can do the same. Copilot can do similar things as well. But it's using the deep research tool. I'm going to give it a little bit more context and tell it to look for competitors, but I'm going to click this button that says research. And now it's going to bring up the thinker. Now, loading research capabilities, basically calling the thinker lead researcher. The first thing the thinker's doing is it's created a whole research plan. It's come up with a project plan and said, I need to look at all these things. I need to go into this level of depth. I need to look at these different areas. And now it's gone through 60 sources, 80 sources, 120 sources, 140 sources, 400 sources. And our thinker is so smart here, our lead researcher, that they've decided that they can't do this alone. So I'll skip forward a little bit. They can't do this alone. They need a team. And so AI, in this case, has decided to call on more AI and said, look, I'm going to get a few helpers here. I'm going to get one agent that looks at competitors, another looks at market and user research, another looks at like technical and business models and all of that. And each of those are looking at completely different things. And look at the depth it's going into. Customer acquisition costs, lifetime customer value, AI travel app development, app store optimization, go-to-market strategy, airline app partnerships, travel industry ROI. It goes into everything like GDPR compliance and all of that. So all of these are doing this. And what it's going to produce right at the end goes, boom, a research report is ready. I don't know why Claude did that, but it's kind of funny, I guess. It produces a white paper. Should Qantas build an AI travel companion app? Save it as a PDF, put your own name on it, submit it. No, I'm kidding. But it's very, very, very helpful. Yes, absolutely you should. You're behind. Like explosive growth, 39%. Singapore Airlines already launched OpenAI. Singapore Airlines, they've partnered with OpenAI. You're already behind. Goes into all of these different areas. And it has your UX trends. 65% comes from travel. Traffic comes from mobile devices, technical requirements, etc. Great, I'll skip forward. Great. So now even though, and by the way, apologies, it took longer than I demoed there, like 6 minutes as opposed to like 1 or 2 minutes. So apologies for misleading you there, but certainly a lot faster than like a McKinsey engagement, and certainly a lot cheaper than their fees for a $20 license. But I'd still argue any of you could have done that. It just would have taken long. But let's do something you couldn't do before. You're inspired and you go, wow, we've got to do this. But what would this app look like? Based on everything you've learned, can you create a mock-up of what the app could look like? And this field is called vibe coding. So you get to go home to your kids tonight and say, I learned how to vibe code today. And either they're going to go, what a loser, or they're going to go, so cool. And it's come up with this mock-up just in the browser. Now, you can say I didn't give it much of a prompt or anything like that. So it's pretty ugly, but it's not the ugliness that there's an issue. Anybody in the world could create this because it doesn't have something that is unique to Qantas, a unique data set. Show me, but what is a unique data set to Qantas? Frequent flyer data. Show me what this travel planner could look like using frequent flyer data as the recommendation engine. And now I get this, like AI trip planner, g'day, Sarah. I guess AI must think because it's Qantas, everybody speaks like that in Australia. I'm your AI travel assistant powered by 8 years of frequent flyer data. Analyze your travel patterns. Here's your travel DNA, came up with all these little concepts and all of that. Now, a lot of the buttons work, all that. Now all of this is smoke and mirrors, of course. But imagine if your first meeting as a leadership team was, we're doing this app, guys. On our Monday morning meeting, I want each of you to come with your top 2 mock-ups of what you think this should look like and what features it should have. And I want you to block out 2 hours and just vibe code for 2 hours and come to us with these things. Now, imagine if your first meeting is, let's go through 6 different mock-ups, fully interactive, and then we move forward. I mean, how long is it going to take you and how much is it going to cost you to get to the same outcome? Instead of just your first meeting being just like talking about actually scheduling more meetings. Like that's the outcome of the first meeting is like, let's schedule more meetings. But it doesn't, so you can see, like, that's where I think people get vibe coding wrong. They think it's for the engineers. I actually think it's for everybody else. I don't think engineering has never been the problem. Of course, we want to pay less for, building software, but I think it's actually the process that makes it expensive, not the cost of the engineers. And we often say these tools are gateway tools because it introduces you to so many of these concepts. And even something like ChatGPT, you could put your headphones in, your AirPods in, put it on voice mode, go for a walk on the beach and say, interview me and help me create an AI strategy. I don't know anything about AI. Have a long conversation with AI. If AI is so powerful, don't go pay for an AI strategy. Ask AI how to use it. But by using it, you're going to figure out all the ways you can use it within your company. And even something as simple as olive oil prospect that we have, mind blown. How could we use in the olive groves? Well, first, let's see if ChatGPT can identify an olive tree. It could very well. Great. What do you guys do? Well, we have to count the number of buds to forecast yield. Let's see if it can count. And it did that very well. Cut it up in different sections, zoomed in, all of that, and it counted it accurately. And think of something like marketing with Gemini. Let's create a marketing video linking heart health with consuming olive oil. I think it's probably more than olive oil to get that 6-pack. But the whole thing there, the same concept applies with the marketing team. Like you don't have to use any of that footage for it to be massively valuable. It can be saying to your marketing team, on Monday, I want you each to come with your top 3 videos that reflects the spirit of the next campaign that we want to run. And then we're going to talk through the advantage of each. Now, sorry, let me kill that for a second. Now we are at time, and I got through everything but like the practical side of it. My apologies. But I'm happy to keep going for another 15 minutes if anybody wants to hang around. Also, what I will do is I promise I will record a short like top tips for execs. I need to do a new one and send it to the attendees. I took longer than I said I would. If you just watch that, it'll probably be 5 minutes. You'll get some great value out of knowing how to get started with both ChatGPT and Copilot. So if you have to go, we've got your details and we'll send that. But Phil, are you okay for me to just carry on for a bit?
Yeah, 100%. Thanks so much, David. Perhaps because people may be going to other meetings, if you just put your comments or thoughts on the webinar in the chat, that would be amazing, and we can follow those up as well, or questions. But yeah, mind blown. I love the fact that you're talking about such big picture ideas, but then also the practical and the granular, which awesome. was brilliant. So just watching some of the chat flow there.
Yep. Fantastic. Great. Yeah. So was that helpful? Amazing. I mean, for the people on camera, like, did you learn something new there? Just like give me a head nod or a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Maybe not. Go off camera if you're going to give the thumbs down.
No, thumbs down. Yeah.
Okay. Let's do some practical stuff. Okay. I'm going to do Copilot and I'm going to do ChatGPT. Now, Copilot lags ChatGPT. So don't get disappointed about the gap in performance between Copilot 365 and ChatGPT, because it just takes long to get there. Kind of get more excited that the capabilities will come to Copilot. It has to go through so many hoops to get deployed to your infrastructure, but also to make it work within Microsoft, because it has to respect all the permissions. And so when you do things with Copilot, let's say somebody shares an agent with you in Copilot that accesses a SharePoint folder, it needs to make sure that it doesn't accidentally give you access to that SharePoint folder, even though you didn't have access in the first place. And so it has to kind of respect all that. It's a much bigger technical challenge that they have. Okay. Now, GPT-5, very new. First thing I'd say is please just buy the paid edition of these tools. It's worth it. If you're not getting value out of it, stop paying for it. But I promise you, you're going to get value out of it dramatically quickly. Okay. Here's your user interface. Now, up until very recently, we had 4.0, which is here. Now it's a legacy model. The whole thing with GPT-5 is that it will automatically decide whether to use the normal model or the thinking model for you. Something to get into the habit of early on the paid model is just default it to thinking. I'm happy to wait longer for a better response. And 5 will try decide for you, but I just do thinking. But to demonstrate the difference between these two, let's try do something like this. Help me prepare for... No, wait, they say, what does TLS do?
That's scary.
It's going to give something like this, right? Now, because I'm techie, it's going to do something like that. But let's even try it again with something else. What does TLS training in Australia do? So you can see the tool call there that we showed earlier, the tools, TLS in the concert, transport security layer, that type of thing, whatever. Now, very fast response. Immediately you know that this is not using thinking. This is a base model response. If you don't like the response, you just rerun it. It tells you here which one it used. It used GPT-5. If you click on this and you can switch model to thinking, this is called a reasoning model. It's incredible. These things are they're so much more powerful, and it's going to say thinking. And if I click on this, if I give it a second, it's actually I can see how its thinking process. And if you drop in a spreadsheet or something in there, you'll actually see it query components of the spreadsheet. You'll see it go back to it. It double checks its own work. And I promise I haven't tried this before. You're seeing this live first time.
Yeah, did it.
I honestly didn't think it was going to find it, because that first one was so different. But you can even see there how it's going a couple of things. But I mean, at least it's gotten close. But we'll see if it gets, yeah, brilliant. You saw the last one didn't find it, right? It said transport security layer. And there you go. And this is also very different with the new GPT. If it's not sure, it's going to tell you. That's actually very new. Very new. Do you mean this? Never did that before. But that's great, right? It's very different. And now the same thing here is, okay, so that's the first thing. Get into the habit of using this model. So there's 2 ways you can rerun it, or you can just do what I do. I just have it on thinking by default. Okay, that's the first thing. That's the biggest difference you're going to find in your experience of ChatGPT, is if you just use the thinking model. Something as simple as, I run a freight logistics company. What are the top 3 ways to use AI? Very impressive a year ago, but today underwhelming. Let's rerun it with thinking. And if I click on it, you can also click, just get a quick answer as well. That's why I think it's a great place to start. And the first thing it does is it optimizes the prompt for you. So prompt engineering, you don't really need to do it here. It does most of it for you. Looks like they're asking about this. I've got it in my custom instructions, which I'll show in 1 second. They do this. They do AI consulting, blah, blah, blah. And then it's going through this, it's double checking its own work, all of that. And it's actually going to come up with a much better thing, particularly if you do things like what what is a realistic ROI in terms of dollars and percent for someone like Toll? Not a customer, I'm just using it as an example. Use relevant public info. Now, as soon as you're using more context of like files and data and all that, it's going to be far like you have to use the thinking model. And even here, you can see it didn't trigger it. I think it should have, but it didn't. But you have to keep in mind that it's in their interest. It's in OpenAI's interest at the moment to not trigger the thinking too much, because it's much more work on those chips, not the training chips, but the inference, the consumption chips. And so there's two ways to trigger it automatically. Now, you're going to laugh here. One way is, okay, let me just actually edit the original prompt. So you can see that it didn't do the reasoning, the thinking one. Think really damn hard. Now, you don't have to say damn, but if I just say think really hard, it should trigger it. Yeah, there you go. I want you to try your best. I want you to try really, really hard. And then AI is going to try really, really hard. But the other way is you just actually rerun it with that. But this is going to be so much more thorough. Look, it's going to the Toll website. It's going to pull through PDFs. It's going to extract the information. It's going to put it in tables. You can even get it to do simulations. You can say, I want you to actually simulate 5 different scenarios and come back with your top output. You'll actually see it run the code and run different simulations and all that. Now, okay, one of my top tips is, let's redo this now. I'll stop this. If it lets me, okay, it does, great. Okay, one of my top tips, like prompt engineering and the prompt that you put in the context, it is important, but I'm very lazy and I don't want to think about what the good prompt is. I want AI to ask me what it needs to know. Can you interview me and ask me 5 questions to give you a better answer? And now you just answer that. And it can be, what's the operation scope, like long haul, to what are the data sources? We have CRM, etc. Like, instead of thinking, what are all the things that I should tell it, just tell it, ask me a couple of questions, and then do it. Now, I wish it would do this by default, but it doesn't. But if you know when to use reasoning models and just simply saying, can you interview me? And just being more ambitious, it's going to make a huge difference. Now, the next thing is, and this is something that all of you have competitors. If you don't, that's brilliant for you, and I kind of wish I had your job. But is using deep research. Now, all platforms have this. In Copilot, this is the researcher. And for those of you who do have Copilot, I'll quickly go here and show you where this is, because it's amazing. In Copilot, it's on the left here, the researcher agent. That's how you access it. You click on this guy here, and you do it in there. Here in ChatGPT, you click on the plus, and you run deep research. You can see you've actually got limited runs each month. On the Enterprise Edition, which we're on, I've got 24 left this month. Here you can see I've got all my connectors in that. I'll just actually remove those for the moment. But in here, if you want to do a competitive analysis, let's say, can you do a competitive analysis of Pathfindr AI? The first thing a deep research agent will do, and you don't have to worry about models here. It will choose it uses a different model as part of the research agent. It's always going to ask you a couple of questions because it takes long. It takes about anywhere from 10 minutes to half an hour, but it's going to produce a 25-page white paper. And it's going to be incredibly thorough, how detailed this is. And so all of you should do a white paper on AI. Say, can you help me come up with a point of view on the impact of AI to my role in industry? And it's going to go and do that. You're going to be blown away. You're absolutely going to be blown away. Now, the more crazy examples, which I can't show because they're too sensitive, if I do this on deep research and I connect my calendar, Outlook, SharePoint, Teams, one of the most killer deep researches that you can do, and you can do it in Copilot as well. I'll actually put it in here. I'll grab one that I ran yesterday or last week. This is going to be a little bit scary for some of you. Interview me to find out my goals, barriers, targets. Then go through the past 5 years of Outlook, Teams, SharePoint, and see if how I'm spending my time is aligned to my goals. Be direct, objective, and blunt, both positive, but especially negative. You have to draw out criticism from AI. It's going to be very light on you. You have to draw it out and provide top 10 recommendations. This is very humbling because it's going to tell you what you already had a suspicion of, but it's actually going to come back with some incredible recommendations. And the same type of thing for, and you can do this with Copilot as well, all on the researcher agent. But it's great for, take your top customer. If you're somebody who's B2B, take your top customer, do deep research, grab the connectors, and do something like this. Let's just say it's Qantas. They're not a customer of ours, so I'll just use it here. Qantas is our top customer. Can you create a comprehensive account briefing white paper that outlines all the stakeholders we know, our interactions with them, a timeline, but more importantly, do a gap analysis and find out who aren't we speaking to that we should be. Imagine if we went through everything in your email, everything, and going, you realize you're speaking to you realize the 3 decision makers that you spend all your time with actually kind of don't have any influence in the company, and every media post, everything is about these other 6. And then of course you can take it further. What's a way that I can break in there and all of that type of thing. So that's, you can see how nothing I've shown you is a productivity hack. I detest those things. I want to elevate this thing. You can always hire somebody in the Philippines or somebody to do low level things for cheap. Don't let AI be a replacement for that. Actually use it to do things that you can't. And okay, so those are two of the tips. Now another tip is, let's go here. Okay, let's grab, actually, I might need to refresh this. Okay, so let's go. Now, some of you will see agent mode. Now, this is more of a kind of power use thing, just playing with a bit. This is the one where it will spin up a browser, control the mouse for you, and whatever. Now, let's do something like I hear the leadership sphere are the best training company in Australia, possibly the world. Can you find their next free webinar and register me? Now this is going to take.
Scary.
Now what this is going to do. Now this is crazy. This is about 3 weeks old, and for those of you with ChatGPT Enterprise, if your IT has enabled this for you, which I'm assuming they haven't, it's actually going to go and spin up a browser, like a terminal and all of that. And it takes a while, it's clunky, but it gets there. And it's going to message you on your phone. ChatGPT will come up with a little pop-up and tell you if it needs your help. And, just really, really fascinating. Eventually, I suspect it's going to eventually open up the whole thing, which is crazy. Now, whilst that goes, I'm going to show you another top tip or two. Okay. Now, the next thing is we spoke all about context. It's very frustrating to tell ChatGPT the same thing over and over again. Let's say.
Sorry, David, can I just interrupt
Yep.
while we're getting real-time questions from Linda?
Sure.
How did you get ChatGPT to do that? The last thing,
it's
I guess.
literally just if you
Agent
push
mode.
plus, if
Yep.
you're on the right license, so on the paid consumer one or the or like a Teams edition for the commercial ones like Teams and Enterprise, your administrator has to tick a button to enable that. So yeah, but you can see here how when you string these things together, add from SharePoint or agent mode, and even if it's connected through the connectors to SharePoint, I could say, you might have a spreadsheet that has all your webinar registrations, you could say, can you go connect with all of them on LinkedIn? And it's going to go do that, because it's in SharePoint. But you could also say, can you go book flight? Can you go find what hotels are available for them? And can you book it? That type of thing. You can kind of see where this is going when you string this together. And so absolutely pretty remarkable. Now, the next thing is going to make a huge difference. So we spoke about context. Now, let's say, I know, for instance, Kelly's pretty new to leadership this year, I think January or something like that. It would kind of suck for her every time to say, I work for the leadership spheres, blah, blah, blah. You want ChatGPT to remember that. So here's a simple clue. Tell ChatGPT to remember it. Please remember that I'm going to be in South Africa for the next 2 weeks. Oh, you failed me. Why did it do that? That sucks. I don't think it actually remembered. Unless GPT-5 has done it differently. It's meant to say memory updated. That's the first time it's ever failed. That's what happens with a new model. Add to ChatGPT memory. It may have. I'll have to check. I think it has now. It takes a little bit longer when it does that. Yep, great, perfect. Interesting. Okay, so now it's updated my memory. Now, why is that important? It's kind of when I'm in South Africa in the next 2 weeks, if I say something like, no, I don't know why I got the time, I don't know why I got all of this wrong. I think it might have.
The dates are wrong.
I don't know why it did that. Anyways, I have to look into that. It's a new model, but that's weird. I don't know why it did that. Anyways, you get the idea. Like maybe it doesn't do dates well there, but the reason why these types of things are important is because it every time you create a new message, every time you do a new prompt in here, all of your memories are actually hidden behind this and they're part of the prompt. And so it comes in with you and you don't have to repeat it. Now, what are great things for memories? Put your laptop model in there. Why? Because if you use a Mac instead of Windows, most people use Windows in the world. If you have problems with Microsoft Word, and you ask it for help, it's gonna give you a Microsoft answer, like a Microsoft Windows answer. It's gonna give you hotkeys for Microsoft Windows. It'd be great if it knows that you use Mac. So that is one of the fastest ways to do it. The other way that you should also do it is initially taking some time to set up your custom instructions. Now, if I click on the ChatGPT logo, we've got a little Pathfindr logo, and I go to customize ChatGPT, it goes to this view here. Now, most people haven't done this. And this is where you say what it should call you, what do you do? Now, all of these things go into the prompt as well. Whenever you use ChatGPT, it's part of the memory. And this is where you talk about style. I don't really care about that. This is a very new thing. This is part of GPT-5. You can choose the style here. I don't really care for that side, but it's the more the thing you should spend more time on is anything else ChatGPT should know about you. Tell it about your role. Tell it about your goals. Tell it if there's something important that's going on at the moment, like we're in the middle of a restructure for the next 3 months. Like if this is a work tool, you're going to want it to know work context. And so it's important to take a bit of time to set those things up. It's really, really important. Great. Okay. Now, I'll give you a final tip and then I'll just do some Q&A. Some of you, I don't know how many they let you do on the Plus edition, but if you do have Pro, if this pops up as an option for you, I don't know if it's literally only available on the Pro edition, which is $200 US a month. But what Pro does, it's the same as Thinking, but it actually does multiple in parallel and then returns the outcome, like the best out of all the results. And so Pro is absolutely brilliant for financial analysis. So if you, like Phil, you could take all of your past webinar spreadsheets, just export them out of Zoom, because Zoom makes that process so horrible. It's one of the worst user experiences in history, that you have to like export spreadsheets to actually like see who attended what session. Dump them all in there. Thinking is probably going to do great as well, but Pro will do exceptional. But make it more challenging. Throw a different data set in it as well. Like see if there's any correlation between website traffic, or even, I don't know if you can get this data out of LinkedIn, but is there a correlation between like LinkedIn activity and webinar attendance? Like this is going to go figure it out for you. And multiple agents are going to work on it in parallel and then come back with their answers at the end. It's going to take a while, but it comes back with something pretty remarkable. Okay. I think those are really good starting points. There is a lot more around GPT creation and all of that, but those are really good starting points. I think this is where interesting. Okay, so this is part of the agent security controls. They have two human in the loop mechanisms for security. One is it forces you to watch if it's doing something particularly sensitive. I don't know why it's trying to get Instagram information from you. I mean, I'll check it out later. And the other thing is, it will. So if you stop watching, if it's doing something sensitive, it will stop. And the other thing is, it will ask you for validation information when it needs it as well. There's another 5 security controls over the top. It's actually incredibly secure. It's but that's interesting. I'll just go resume that. But I guess it's going to stop if I stop. Okay. Now, before we open to Q&A, I just want to give you, for those of you who do have Copilot, now also keep in mind there's lots of versions of Copilot. To know if you're on Copilot and your employer has actually given you a paid edition versus the free one, just go to office.com, literally as simple as that. And then if you see the work and web at the top, you have the right edition. Work is paying for it. If you don't have that, like, yeah, they're not taking AI seriously, unfortunately. So that's the giveaway. Now, in Copilot, Researcher is that deep research function. This is where it has access to so many amazing things. And a very fun thing that you can all do is do something. This is hilarious. So, can you summarize my last week in the style of a comedy roast in South African slang? It's just pretty funny because it's going to go through your calendar and all of that, and just give you a bit of an idea of the type of data it has access to. But if you remember earlier around context, work has all the context. Buckle up, brew. Here's your week served hot from Josie
It's
to
sassy.
Mel. Yeah, it's hilarious. But with Copilot, work and web, okay, what do these things do? So work has access to all of your work information, SharePoint, Outlook, Teams, everything. Web doesn't. Now, why wouldn't you just use work all the time? Because it's gonna assume that it has to use it. Like AI is very clever, but also very dumb. Like it's gonna assume that it has to use that information. And so if you ask for like an analysis of the leadership sphere, it's going to assume it has to try find something in your documents to help with that analysis, and it's going to be slower and all that. Whereas sometimes it's literally just you just want to go to web and do that. So that's when you flick between those two. The next thing with Copilot is if you use spreadsheets with Copilot, and I think this is why Copilot is great because it makes people very safe and secure and comfortable with using sensitive information, and that's where the value is in AI. It's in customer information and all of that. The analyst is the Copilot feature that is fine-tuned for spreadsheet information, data, exports, etc. What it does is it actually uses an O3 mini model, a reasoning model, but it's great. Like it's really, really good. It can clean data for you. It can interpret it, even create charts and bar charts and all of that for you. It's really, really powerful. And so if you have Copilot, just 2 massive things that you can do, like do that research, that career reflection in Copilot. It's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. It's going to take half an hour. You're also going to think that it's actually stopped working. That's how long it's going to take. And then drop some spreadsheets into Analyst and do some work there. Copilot also has the same like custom instructions under settings. It has a personalization section here and that. So there's a few things you can do there as well. I think I've thrown enough at you guys at the moment. I'm happy to take some questions, and hopefully there's some good tips. By the way, we go into all of that stuff at startlearning.ai, like our monthly public webinars, and we'd love to see you there, and feel free to bring your team as well.
That's brilliant. Thanks, David. Yeah, we've still got 20 people on the webinar, which is amazing because we're 90 minutes in. So that shows you the stickiness of this topic and the interest. I found it fascinating myself. And just by way of David, your tip around connecting Gmail and what have you was amazing. I did that only yesterday, asked for an analysis over the last 12 months, and it gave me a summary of how good I was at following up or not. And it actually named 2 prospective clients who said, hey, over the last 12 months, you haven't got back to these 2 people, which is amazing. Overall, gave me an A+, so I was pretty happy, but just amazing, right? I didn't know you could connect Gmail or calendar.
Exactly.
Even
And
that
that's the thing.
was amazing.
These things are right in front of us, but like
Yeah.
nobody's really. And this is I mean, I come from a consulting background, but I think that's where I'm like deeply disappointed of the major consulting firms in Australia who most companies have gone to for advice through this. And they've been hitting them with multi-agentic autonomous platforms instead of, hey, maybe you're not ready for that if your leadership team doesn't even know that ChatGPT can take attachments, because that's kind of where we're at the moment. And by the way, it's a lot cheaper than like a $5 million engagement. So
PowerPoint presentation.
exactly. Yeah. But feel free to ask any questions. Drop it in the chat, or if you want to come off mute as well, that would be great too.
Roderick asked, what are the top 3 stocks to make the fastest growth this week?
I mean, I still
Like
think
asking what are the Tats Lotto numbers, right?
so. I mean,
Maybe.
I still think, despite their market cap, I mean, I don't know. Do a deep research agent, but who knows? But I still think Nvidia, like in the US, I still think we're going to run out of chips. Like it's already the limiting factor. Like imagine if an entire tech wave is basically built in your ability to produce enough product, and you already charge whatever you want. And so I'm still long Nvidia, but it's a good question. I got no clue. Actually, one thing people do ask, what are good AI investments? I think one of the big things to look for is, do they have a data set that others don't? So even though I didn't show Gemini today, it's a brilliant product. Google Gemini is such an underrated product. It's so good. But the reason why I think long term, even though I love ChatGPT and use it all the time, I don't think it has a role in the future because they don't have any unique data. So think of Google Gemini. If I say I'm going to Paris for a week, can you come up with an itinerary for me? Google knows what I like to do from my YouTube use. It knows my search history. It knows the types of places I like to go because of my maps history. Think of that. It's crazy, scary, but crazy. Like you can definitely have issues with, like, they know too much about me, but it's hard to argue against the usefulness. Like, and you can already now book through Google Flights and all of that in there. And their data is also the data is like, it's far more valuable, because if I ask ChatGPT what are the top places to go in Melbourne on a Friday night, it's drawing off blog posts and all of that. Whereas Google Gemini eventually will be drawing off of location information from maps, and it knows where people spend more time than other places. So like, that's a good indicator. If you're spending more at one place compared to another, that's probably a top place. So I just think their signals are so much stronger long term. Cool. What else?
Roderick's asking, thank you, David. I'd like permission to quote you, please.
Well, it depends on the quote.
Roderick's still here. I can see. Roderick, would you mind adding?
That's the thing I need to know.
It's literally, I was about to hit a LinkedIn post. It's just like fantastic. So I just changed a couple of things, and just the 3 things: the assistant, the thinker, and the creator.
Of course, quote me like crazy. Just don't, like, it's a bit of a, just like, if I've had a customer logo up or something earlier, like, it's just one of those things that, whilst they're okay with it, they're also kind of weird about it, because often it's like 10 people that have to say yes. So just you can quote me like crazy. I mean, I honestly believe that AI is like such a force for good. Like I think that, imagine what it can do for education. I didn't even cover that today, but that's something that I get so excited about. You can learn anything in any language at your pace, at any reading level, at any time of day, basically for free. And people talk about job loss, but like, well over 50% of the country is employed by small businesses. They don't want less people, they want more. They can't afford them. And they want to get a good website up and running, but they can't afford it. But now they can. And it's so difficult to get a business off the ground in particular because of all these barriers. I'm so excited what it can do for entrepreneurship and all of that as well. So I'm enormously optimistic. So the more people talk about it, please, go crazy, share all the top tips, whatever. I don't mind. Yeah.
Hey, David, in the spirit of doing research, I asked ChatGPT what would be a funny question to ask you prior to this session. And it said, in exact words, you could slip in something like, when AI takes over all my admin work, will it also attend my 4-hour budget meetings and politely nod for me? There you go.
Yeah,
so it's got a sense of humor.
It can. But that's a really good one. But I think the bigger thing is like, you don't need the 4-hour budget meeting anymore. Like it's different. Hey, I'm so sorry. I have to run to my next session. But it's been so wonderful connecting with all of you. And please, if there is an opportunity for us to actually work with your leadership team or even give your company training, please reach out. Just connect with me on LinkedIn. And just send me a message. I'll accept everybody's connection requests, and then I'd love to chat. And I'm sure we can find some way, even if it's just sending your team to our free sessions. That's great. Yeah, that'll be really good. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much, David. That was awesome. Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.